Buenas.
La niña quiere un saludo a la cámara.
Mira, saluda.
Hello.
Saluda, hija.
Buenas.
Ella es una artista, ella ya está acostumbrada a la cámara.
Saluda a la cámara. Samuel, saluda a la cámara.
Hello. You want to say your name?
My name is Samuel Campion.
And you're from Colombia.
Yes.
What do you think of this journey that you're on all the way?
No, ya.
All right. Well, hey, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And good luck and God bless you. Yes. Gracias.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hola everyone. Hey, in this video I went to the crossing checkpoint for the refugees fleeing from South America. This has been an ongoing crisis for a while. One of the sources I talked with estimates 6 months or more, maybe, of their support in this operation. Yeah, these folks come from South America, specifically Colombia, Venezuela, Chile, but also there are people in some of the groups that are from Africa and Afghanistan. So that makes it sort of an interesting mix for sure. The first one I'll talk about is the Red Cross. The Red Cross provides medicine, personal hygiene, and psychosocial support. This started around November with rotating crews. And like I said, maybe 6 months more, maybe more. They see on an average of 2,000 on a calm day, and then it sort of varies. It just depends on what's going on, but there are some large groups. And the time that I'm there during this video was just for a few hours, and we had buses drop off many people that went through the checkpoints. Now the Red Cross does need some donations. If you're one of my viewers that is from this area, from El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, they do need some things like warm clothing and medicines. And I'll put a link with their information underneath the main title of the video, and you can go there, and there should be more information on one of the links to tell you exactly what they need. But some of these people will need the warmer clothing, which seems sort of odd, but down here they do go through the mountains, and it does get a lot cooler than if you're down in the valley somewhere experiencing the sunshine. It gets warm. But then you go up at night and you're on top of some mountain following the road, it does get cold. The second organization is ADRA, Adventist Development and Relief Agency. They were set up in the white tent. They provide, this is the first one, health care. They help with treating from minor illnesses up to vaccinating for measles and boosters of OPV, and they have a doctor on site. And I did visit with her, a very polite doctor, spoke English, was able to talk about a little bit of the scope of what they do, and I did get to witness some of it. Is this where you work? But I mean, they're out there all the time, and they have been for a while. And like I said, rotating crews, so it's an interesting setup. The next one is child education. Child education is a safe space to learn, to have fun, and to be a kid, monitored by a trained individual from ADRA. Just during the period they have worked with some of these refugees, they have helped 1,300 boys and girls. So you can imagine, you know, just us getting in the car with the kids in the back seat, and we're going to take an hour trip to go see something or go do something. How strenuous and taxing it is for our kids to ride in the back seat for that long, which I completely understand. I mean, I was a kid too. I had to ride back there in the back seat with my sister, and that was no fun. But these kids are basically in a bus or walking for miles on end with their parents and all these other, a lot of them are total strangers. And so they have a space at ADRA, which they can go in, and there's games, there's, you know, just different activities for them just to sort of relax for just a moment, because they might not be there very long before it's time for them to start moving. Okay, the next thing that ADRA does is nutrition assistance. They have helped provide hot meals to almost 7,000 of the refugees. And there's other organizations, and you saw on some of the banners I took pictures of, there's a lot of different organizations from all over, UNICEF and everybody. And but in their case, 7,000 hot meals, and you can imagine traveling cross country, probably without any funds. A lot of them have hardly any funds at all, and being offered a hot meal. How much of a boost would that give your day to have an actual good meal to eat and a place to sit down and rest for just a little while on this journey? They also evaluate people to make sure they're not malnourished. They had a nutritionist there that I also visited with. Now these checks are for the adults, for pregnant women, and also for children. So they do the whole gambit as far as their nutritional requirements and try to figure out exactly where they're at and what they need. Now the last station is the water hydration station, and they're giving out water to over 30,000 refugees so far. Also giving out personal hygiene kits, because I mean, there's not like showers and bathrooms. There might be a bathroom on that bus. You saw one of the buses that pulled away, but I imagine, you know, some buses will lock the doors and say, no, you can't use this while you're on here or whatever. And so they're giving them these hygiene kits and also giving them water to keep them from getting dehydrated. And they gave out quite a bit of water just while I was there. And I mean, you'll get dehydrated just like that if you're not careful. Now, ADRA is in need, desperate need, of medicines, and I'll post a couple of screenshots on here that their doc sent me. But their organization has a link in the description below the main summary of the video, and in there should be some more items listed that they could use. Now the doc said they run out of medicine, I mean, quite frequently, and you know, I was able to donate just a very small amount to them from one of the pharmacies here in Ocotepeque, and but I mean, you know, if everybody would do that can, a little bit here, a little bit there, it could add up to help them, because they do run out, because the people do have lots of issues, understand, traveling on this journey. Yeah, overall, it was a somber day here at this checkpoint. I mean, it was a pretty day, so that helped quite a bit. It's located about 25 to 30 minutes, roughly, from the Guatemala border. And what's the future hold for these people? I just don't know. I really don't. But, you know, if you have a family and you live in a gang-infested country with corruption, government corruption, murder, and who knows what else, you don't have a lot of options. And I think that's where a lot of these people are. They're desperate for a new way of life, for a change, and you know, I sure hope God watches over them and guides them along this trip. So, you know, if you have a warm bed, food in the fridge, your kids are safe, be thankful. Always be thankful. Yeah, I remember growing up and my mom worked at a place called Fort Chaffee. It was an Army base near Fort Smith, Arkansas. She worked there during the 70s, early part of the 70s, right at the end of the Vietnam War, when the Vietnam refugees were fleeing that regime in Vietnam. And Fort Smith, specifically Fort Chaffee, was one of the main, you know, camps or centers that people came into. And then over the years, as I was growing up, because I was probably about 10 or 12, the Vietnamese people, you know, moved into the community, started businesses, and began to intertwine themselves with the local community. And I do remember having a lot of friends from Vietnam growing up. And then when I was just out of high school, I worked at Fort Chaffee too. This time it was for the Cuban refugees that were leaving Cuba. And we had quite a few out there. They have old dorms. The base itself was built in the 40s, and the Cubans and the Vietnamese also stayed in the dorms, and they had kitchens out there where contractors would cook and provide them food and then help them to get relocated. Now, I'm not sure if these people here, what's going to happen to them. I don't know if they're going to run into the same kind of situation, or if they're going to, you know, stop and start, you know, filtering off. You know, maybe they like Guatemala a lot better than Colombia. Who knows? And so there's so many different possibilities, and it's just going to be an ongoing thing. Just see how it develops. Also, the workers, you know, they do this on a rotational basis, but it's taking them away from their homes, their families, so they can come up here and help people they don't even know. And as an emergency responder for years, that happens. That's just part of your life. But it still helps to know that people are thinking about you as well as the victims. Hey, as I said before, there are links in the description about the two organizations that I talked to on scene at the checkpoint. And you go to those links, and there should be some categories or some pages that's going to tell you what kind of donations or assistance they need. And I'm sure anything would be appreciated. They're running on fumes, it looks like, on some things. So yeah, if you can help, and especially down here in Central America, you know, I've got friends in Guatemala now, friends in Honduras, and of course El Salvador. So those local organizations might be able to help out in this relief effort. All right, well, it's been a very moving video for me to make this, and to go up there and to see everything I did. But we've got to wrap it up. And so I want to say thanks for all the likes, the comments, and shares. And share this with some of your friends that may have influence, like in local churches or organizations that could help donate something to this effort. And thanks for the subscriptions. I appreciate it very much. All right, so until next time, it's hasta luego. And I'll see you later. From Honduras, it's bye.